In the quiet corridors of Kensington Palace, where royal protocols dictate every breath and gesture, Princess Catherine stood at a crossroads that would define not just her youngest son's future, but challenge everything the monarchy represented. The decision she was about to make would send shockwaves through the royal establishment and touch the hearts of millions worldwide. What could drive a mother, bound by centuries of tradition, to risk everything for a single moment that mattered more than any crown or title? The answer lay in the innocent eyes of 5-year-old Prince Louis, whose simple request would test the very foundations of royal duty against a mother's unconditional love. This is the story of a choice that reminded the world that behind the glittering facade of royalty beats the heart of a mother who would move mountains for her child's happiness. A decision so profound, so unexpectedly human, that it would leave even the most ardent critics of the monarchy wiping away tears and questioning everything they thought they knew about the woman who would one day be queen. The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of Adelaide Cottage as Princess Catherine helped her youngest son, Prince Louis, with his breakfast. At 5 years old, Louis had inherited his father's mischievous smile and his mother's determined spirit, a combination that often led to unexpected moments in the Wales household. Catherine noticed Louis had been quieter than usual over the past few days. While his older siblings, Prince George and Princess Charlotte, chattered excitedly about their upcoming school events, Louis seemed lost in thought, occasionally glancing at his mother with those large, expressive eyes that seemed to hold wisdom beyond his years. The royal family's schedule was, as always, meticulously planned. Every public appearance, every engagement, every family moment was carefully orchestrated by a team of private secretaries, protection officers, and palace officials. Catherine had learned to navigate this complex world since marrying Prince William, but motherhood had awakened something fierce and protective within her that sometimes clashed with royal expectations. On this particular morning, as she helped Louis tie his shoes, he looked up at her with unusual seriousness. The conversation that followed would challenge everything Catherine thought she knew about balancing her roles as a mother and a future queen. "Mummy," Louis said softly, his small fingers fumbling with the laces, "can you come to my school concert next week?" Catherine's heart clenched. She knew exactly which concert he meant. The palace schedule showed she was supposed to be attending a state function that evening, representing the royal family at an important diplomatic event. The kind of engagement that couldn't be rescheduled, the type that reinforced Britain's international relationships and upheld centuries of royal duty. "Of course, darling," she found herself saying, though her mind immediately began racing through the implications. "Tell me about it." Louis's face brightened instantly, transforming from the worried little boy to the enthusiastic child she knew and loved. He began explaining how his class had been practicing songs for weeks, how he had been chosen to play a special part, and how all the other children's parents would be there. As Catherine listened, she realized this wasn't just any school performance. For Louis, this represented something far more significant than a simple concert. In his young mind, this was his moment to shine, his opportunity to show his mother what he had been working so hard to achieve. The weight of her conflicting responsibilities settled heavily on Catherine's shoulders. She thought about the countless times royal duties had required sacrifices from the family. The missed bedtime stories during foreign tours, the carefully planned family moments that had to be postponed for state obligations, the constant balance between public service and private family life. But as she looked into Louis's hopeful eyes, Catherine felt something shift within her. This wasn't just about missing a concert. It was about making a choice that would define what kind of mother she wanted to be and what values she wanted to instill in her children. Later that morning, after dropping the children at school, Catherine found herself in her private office at Kensington Palace, staring at the official schedule laid out before her. The state function was highlighted in red, marked as critical attendance required. Her private secretary, a well-meaning woman who had served the royal family for decades, had already briefed her on the evening's importance. The event would host several foreign dignitaries, including representatives from Commonwealth nations who had specifically requested her presence. The media would be watching, analyzing every aspect of the royal family's commitment to their duties. Missing such an event would require extensive explanations and could potentially strain diplomatic relationships. Catherine's phone buzzed with a text message from William, who was away on a separate royal engagement. "Looking forward to hearing about Louis's concert when I get back," he had written, apparently unaware of the scheduling conflict that was now tearing at his wife's heart. She realized that William, like many fathers in demanding careers, sometimes missed these moments due to unavoidable commitments. But Catherine had always tried to be the constant presence in their children's lives, the parent who showed up, who made their world feel stable and secure despite the chaos of royal life. The afternoon brought a series of meetings with palace officials, each one reinforcing the importance of the state function. Catherine listened politely as they outlined the diplomatic significance, the media coverage, and the precedent that attendance would set for future royal engagements. "Your Royal Highness," her private secretary said gently, "perhaps Prince Louis would understand if you explained the situation. Children are often more resilient than we think." Catherine nodded, but inside, she was remembering her own childhood, the moments when her parents had been able to attend her school events, and how those memories had shaped her understanding of love and priority. She thought about the kind of childhood she wanted to give her children, despite the unique pressures of their royal birth. That evening, as she tucked Louis in a bed, he mentioned the concert again, his excitement evident in every word. He had made a special drawing for her, depicting stick figures on a stage with a crown-wearing figure in the audience. "That's you, Mummy," he said proudly, pointing to the crown figure. "You'll be the most beautiful person there." Catherine felt her throat tighten as she looked at the innocent artwork. In Louis's world, the most important audience for his performance would be his mother. The diplomats, the state obligations, the centuries of royal protocol meant nothing compared to the simple desire to make his mummy proud. As she kissed him goodnight and watched him drift off to sleep, Catherine knew she was facing more than just a scheduling conflict. She was confronting the very essence of who she wanted to be as a mother and what legacy she wanted to leave for her children. The decisions she would make in the coming days would ripple far beyond the walls of their home, challenging established royal traditions and revealing the deeply human heart that beat beneath the royal title. But for now, in the quiet darkness of her son's bedroom, Catherine held onto the drawing of the stick figure family and felt the first stirrings of a choice that would move a nation to tears. The next morning arrived with an unusual flurry of activity at Kensington Palace. Catherine had requested an emergency meeting with her senior advisors, something that rarely happened unless there was a significant crisis or change in the royal schedule. Seated around the polished conference table were some of the most experienced minds in royal protocol. Her private secretary, the palace communications director, a representative from Buckingham Palace, and her personal protection officer. Each face around the table reflected years of service to the crown and an understanding of the delicate balance required in royal life. Catherine took a deep breath before speaking. "I need to discuss the state function scheduled for next Tuesday evening," she began, her voice steady, but carrying an undertone that immediately caught everyone's attention. The private secretary opened her leather-bound diary, ready to address any concerns about timing or logistics. "Of course, Your Royal Highness. Is there an issue with the current arrangements?" "I won't be attending," Catherine said quietly, but with unmistakable determination. The silence that followed was profound. These are people accustomed to last-minute changes, diplomatic crises, and the occasional need to adjust royal schedules. But what Catherine was proposing was unprecedented in its personal nature. "Ma'am," the communications director ventured carefully, "perhaps if you could help us understand the nature of the conflict, we might be able to find alternative solutions." Catherine felt the weight of tradition pressing down on her as she explained about Louis's school concert. To outsiders, it might seem like a simple choice, but everyone in that room understood the complexities involved. Royal duty wasn't just about personal preference. It was about upholding institutions, maintaining diplomatic relationships, and setting examples for the nation. The representative from Buckingham Palace, a distinguished gentleman who had served the royal family for over 30 years, spoke with measured concern. Your Royal Highness, while we certainly appreciate the importance of family commitments, this particular event carries significant diplomatic weight. The Commonwealth representatives have specifically requested your presence, and your absence might be interpreted as a slight. Catherine had anticipated this response. She had spent the sleepless hours of the previous night considering every angle, every potential consequence of her decision. But each time she returned to the image of Louis's hopeful face and the simple drawing he had made of her in the audience. "I understand the implications," she replied, "but I need you to understand something as well. My children didn't choose to be born into this life. They didn't ask for the constant scrutiny, the security restrictions, or the weight of expectations that comes with their birth. The least I can do is show up when it matters to them." Her personal protection officer, a woman who had witnessed countless royal moments both public and private, found herself unexpectedly moved by Catherine's words. She had seen the princess struggle with the competing demands of royal life and motherhood, always trying to find balance in an inherently unbalanced situation. The meeting continued for over 2 hours, with various alternatives suggested and dismissed. Could the concert be rescheduled? No, it involved dozens of families and months of preparation. Could the state function be moved? Absolutely not, given the diplomatic calendars and international schedules involved. Could Catherine make a brief appearance at both events? The timeline made it impossible. As the advisors presented their concerns, Catherine found herself thinking about the broader implications of her choice. She was setting a precedent that could impact how future generations of royals balance their public duties with private family moments. But she was also sending a message about the values she wanted to instill in her children. During a brief break in the meeting, Catherine stepped out onto the palace balcony overlooking the gardens. The autumn air was crisp, and she could see tourists gathered at the gates, hoping for a glimpse of royal life. These were people who looked up to the royal family, who found meaning and inspiration in the traditions and values the monarchy represented. She thought about her late mother-in-law, Princess Diana, whose approach to royal duties had been revolutionary in its emphasis on human connection and authentic emotion. Diana had challenged royal protocol numerous times in service of what she believed was right, and those choices had fundamentally changed how the public viewed the monarchy. Catherine's phone rang, interrupting her contemplation. It was William, calling from his engagement in Scotland. "How did the meeting go?" he asked, clearly having been briefed about the scheduling conflict. Catherine explained the situation and the resistance she was facing from the palace officials. William listened quietly, understanding better than anyone the pressure she was under. "What does your heart tell you?" he asked finally. It was such a simple question, but it cut through all the complexity and protocol to the core of the matter. Catherine's heart told her that being present for her son's concert was more important than any state function, no matter how diplomatically significant. "I need to be there for Louis," she said softly. "Then, that's what you should do," William replied without hesitation. "The monarchy survives because it evolves, Catherine, because it remembers that behind all the ceremonies and traditions are real people with real families." When Catherine returned to the meeting, she carried with her a renewed sense of purpose. She looked around the table at the concerned faces of her advisors and felt a wave of gratitude for their dedication to the crown, even as she prepared to challenge their advice. "I've made my decision," she announced. "I will not be attending the state function. I will be at my son's school concert, sitting in the audience like any other parent, watching my child perform." The communications director immediately began outlining the media strategy they would need to manage the fallout. The private secretary started planning how to inform the diplomatic guests of the change. The Buckingham Palace representative discussed the delicate conversations that would need to happen with senior royals. But Catherine noticed something else in their responses. Beneath the professional concern and protocol-driven anxiety, there was something that looked remarkably like admiration. These were people who had dedicated their lives to serving the crown, but there were also parents, spouses, and individuals who understood the power of choosing family when it mattered most. As the meeting concluded, Catherine's private secretary approached her privately. "Ma'am, if I may say so, I think you're making the right choice. The monarchy needs to show that it understands what truly matters to families today." That evening, Catherine sat down with George and Charlotte to tell them about her decision. Their reactions were immediate and telling. George, at 10 years old and increasingly aware of royal expectations, seemed surprised but pleased that his mother would prioritize Louis's concert. Charlotte, ever protective of her younger brother, beamed with approval. "Will you really be there, Mummy?" Charlotte asked. "Even though you're a princess?" "Especially because I'm a princess," Catherine replied, realizing as she spoke that she was defining what kind of princess, what kind of future queen, she intended to be. Later that night, as Catherine reviewed the statements her team had prepared for the media, she reflected on the weight of her choice. She was about to demonstrate that being royal didn't mean being removed from the fundamental experiences of parenthood. She was showing that the crown could bend without breaking, could evolve while maintaining its dignity. The decision was made, but Catherine knew the real test would come in the days ahead, as the world learned about her choice and judged whether her mother's love was worth the diplomatic complications it might cause. In her heart, she already knew the answer. The morning of Louis's school concert dawned bright and clear, but Catherine woke with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The palace's media team had released a carefully worded statement the previous day, explaining that the Princess of Wales would be attending a family commitment and expressing regret that she couldn't fulfill the state function engagement. The reaction had been swift and divided. Traditional media outlets questioned the appropriateness of prioritizing a child's school event over diplomatic duties. Social media, however, told a different story. Parents from around the world began sharing their own experiences of missed school events due to work commitments, expressing admiration for Catherine's choice to put her child first. As Catherine prepared for the day, she chose her outfit carefully. This wasn't an official royal engagement, so she wouldn't be wearing the formal attire typically expected at state functions. Instead, she selected a simple but elegant dress that would allow her to blend in with the other parents while still reflecting the dignity of her position. Her protection team had spent days coordinating with the school to ensure the event could proceed smoothly despite the royal attendance. The school's headmaster, initially overwhelmed by the implications of hosting a future queen, had worked tirelessly to maintain the normal atmosphere Louis and his classmates deserved. At breakfast, Louis could barely contain his excitement. He had been practicing his part in the concert for weeks, and knowing his mother would be there had given him a confidence that radiated throughout the morning routine. "Mummy, you'll see me in the second song," he explained earnestly, his small face serious with the importance of the information. "I have a special part where I step forward and sing by myself." Catherine's heart swelled with pride and love. This was exactly why she had made her choice. These moments of pure childhood joy and achievement were precious beyond any diplomatic gathering or state ceremony. The drive to the school was different from Catherine's usual royal journeys. Instead of the formal convoy typically used for official engagements, she traveled in a regular car with minimal security presence. The goal was to arrive as Louis's mom, not as the Princess of Wales on an official visit. When they arrived at the school, Catherine was struck by the normalcy of the scene. Parents were streaming into the building, many carrying flowers for their children or cameras to capture the performance. Children in costume rushed past, their excitement palpable as they prepared for their moment on stage. Several parents recognized Catherine immediately, but their reactions were surprisingly warm and respectful. Instead of the formal deference she often encountered at official events, these parents treated her as one of them, a mother attending her child's school concert. "Your Louis is such a lovely boy," one mother said as they found their seats in the school hall. He's been so excited about tonight, talking about how his mummy was coming to watch. Catherine felt tears prick her eyes. In this simple interaction, she was experiencing something she rarely encountered in her royal role: acceptance as simply another parent, proud of her child, and present for an important moment in his young life. The school hall was transformed with handmade decorations and a small stage where the children would perform. Catherine took her seat among the other families, her protection officer discreetly positioned nearby, but trying to remain invisible to maintain the informal atmosphere. As the lights dimmed and the concert began, Catherine found herself completely absorbed in the magic of the moment. The children performed with the uninhibited joy that only young performers possess, their faces shining with pride and excitement as they spotted their families in the audience. When Lewis's moment came, stepping forward for his solo part in the second song, Catherine felt her breath catch. His small voice filled the hall with surprising strength and clarity, and his eyes found hers in the audience. The smile he gave her was radiant, full of love and pride that his mummy was there to witness his special moment. Around her, Catherine was aware of other parents wiping away tears, moved by the simple beauty of children performing for the people they loved most. But her focus remained entirely on Lewis, her youngest child, who was beaming with the knowledge that he had kept his promise to make her proud. The concert concluded with all the children singing together, their voices creating a joyful chorus that filled the hall with warmth and celebration. As the audience applauded, Catherine stood with the other parents, clapping enthusiastically for not just Lewis, but for all the children who had worked so hard for this moment. After the performance, as families gathered to congratulate their young performers, Catherine experienced something unprecedented in her royal life. She was surrounded by genuine, unguarded moments of connection with other parents who shared her pride and emotion. "Thank you for being here," the school's headmaster said quietly as the evening concluded. "Your presence meant the world to Lewis, but it also sent a powerful message to all our families about the importance of showing up for our children." The drive home was filled with Lewis's excited chatter about the concert, his joy infectious as he relived every moment of his performance. Catherine realized that by choosing to attend, she hadn't just given him a memory, she had affirmed his value and importance in a way that would shape his understanding of love and priority for years to come. In the days that followed, the impact of Catherine's choice began to unfold in ways no one had anticipated. Letters poured into Kensington Palace from parents around the world, thanking her for demonstrating that children should come first. Working mothers wrote about feeling validated in their struggles to balance career and family. Fathers shared stories of rearranging work schedules to attend school events after being inspired by her example. The diplomatic community, initially concerned about the precedent of missing the state function, found themselves surprisingly understanding. Several foreign representatives privately expressed admiration for Catherine's priorities, with many sharing their own experiences of missing family moments for professional obligations. Most significantly, the British public responded with overwhelming support. Polling showed that an enormous majority approved of Catherine's decision, with many commenting that it made the royal family more relatable and human. The choice to prioritize her child's concert over a formal duty had actually strengthened rather than weakened public support for the monarchy. Members of Parliament from across the political spectrum praised Catherine's decision, with several noting that it reflected the values of modern British families who often struggled to balance work and family responsibilities. William, when asked about his wife's choice during a subsequent engagement, spoke with obvious pride and emotion. "Catherine made the choice any loving parent would make," he said. "Our children are only young once, and those moments matter more than any protocol or tradition." The most touching responses, however, came from children themselves. Schools across the country reported increased attendance at parent-teacher conferences and school events as mothers and fathers cited Catherine's example when explaining why they had rearranged work commitments. Lewis, blissfully unaware of the international attention his school concert had generated, simply knew that his mummy had kept her promise to be there. In his innocent understanding of the world, this was exactly as it should be, the natural order of priorities that placed love and family above all other considerations. As Catherine reflected on the experience weeks later, she realized that her choice had done more than simply allow her to attend a school concert. It had redefined what it meant to be royal in the modern world, demonstrating that the monarchy's strength lay not in rigid adherence to protocol, but in its ability to reflect the values and priorities of the people it served. The image that would remain with her forever was not of the state function she had missed or the diplomatic complications that had been navigated, but of Louis's radiant smile as he spotted her in the audience, knowing without doubt that he was loved enough to be her priority when it mattered most. In choosing her son's concert over royal duty, Catherine had inadvertently chosen a new definition of royal service itself, one that recognized that sometimes the most important crown a person can wear is simply that of mum, and the most vital service they can provide is showing up with love when their child needs them most.